I still remember the moment I realized my sister didn't want me at her wedding. The sting wasn't just in the absence of an invitation. It was in the way everyone around me acted like it was normal, like I was supposed to be okay with it. My sister, Emily, and I had always been close growing up. We shared a room, whispered secrets at night, and promised we'd always be there for each other. But in the last couple of years, things changed. After college, she moved to another city, met Jake, and suddenly our conversations slowed, the visits became rare, and the warmth faded. So when the wedding invites started going out, I waited for mine with a quiet hope. I checked the mailbox every day, asked my parents, tried to sound casual about it, but the answer was always the same. Emily wants to keep it small. Or, it's just close family. But I was family, wasn't I? Weeks passed. I never got that envelope with my name on it. I found out later that my name was deliberately left off the list. I wasn't the only one feeling the cold shoulder. A few mutual friends mentioned how Emily had started cutting ties with people she called too negative or not good for the image. And somehow, I fit into that category. That hurt more than I expected. But I told myself I'd handle it quietly, without drama. After all, it was her day, and if she didn't want me there, I'd respect that. But beneath the calm, my mind was spinning with questions. What had I done wrong? Was it really just about keeping the guest list small? Or was this a way to send me a message that I was no longer welcome in her life? Then the messages started. Indirect, awkward, but clear. From family members, asking me not to bring up the wedding or the invitation. From friends telling me not to expect any updates. Even my parents avoided the subject. It felt like I was being erased. I spent nights scrolling through social media, watching posts tagged Emily and Jake 2024, pictures of the bridal shower, the rehearsal dinner, all without me. My sister looked radiant, smiling next to Jake, surrounded by people who mattered to her, and apparently I didn't. One evening, I finally confronted my mom. Why didn't Emily invite me? I asked, voice shaking but quiet. She sighed, looking torn. She's worried about drama. Things have been tense between you two. She wanted to avoid any conflicts. I wanted to argue that family is supposed to face conflicts and work through them, not hide from them, but I just nodded. The wedding date grew closer, and my feelings churned between sadness, anger, and a strange numbness. I told myself I would stay out of it, keep my distance. But deep down, a small part of me hoped she'd change her mind, that she'd call me, that I'd get a chance to prove I wasn't a problem. Then one morning, I got a call from Jake. It was unexpected. His voice was tense, nervous even. "We're in trouble," he said. That was all before he explained everything. The wedding planner had quit without notice. The florist canceled, vendors were falling through, and the stress was crushing Emily. "Look, I know you're not invited and I get it," Jake said carefully. "But we could really use some help. You're the only person I trust to get this right." For a moment, I was speechless. Could I step in? Should I? Despite everything, a part of me still cared. Maybe this was a chance, not just to save the wedding, but maybe, just maybe, to save what was left of our relationship. I told him I'd be there. The next morning, I packed my bags and drove to the venue. As I pulled up, I saw the chaos firsthand. Tables without linens, half-hung decorations, stressed-out vendors pacing the halls. Emily stood in the middle of it all, hands on her hips, face pale but determined. She glanced at me briefly, eyes flickering with surprise, maybe regret. I didn't say anything about the invitation. Instead, I rolled up my sleeves, because sometimes family means showing up, even when you're not wanted. The moment I stepped inside the venue, the tension was almost palpable. The wedding hall, which was supposed to be transformed into a beautiful, elegant space by now, looked half-finished and chaotic. Chairs were scattered unevenly, tablecloths still folded in boxes, and floral arrangements nowhere to be seen. Emily was pacing near the entrance, phone in hand, barking orders but clearly overwhelmed. Jake was trying to calm the vendors, but it was obvious he was out of his depth. I cleared my throat gently. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Where do you want me to start?" Emily turned sharply, surprise flashing in her eyes. I wasn't expecting her to be so guarded, but there was no coldness, just exhaustion. "We're behind schedule," she said, voice tight. "The florist canceled yesterday. The caterer is running late, and half the rentals haven't shown up." I took a deep breath. "Okay, let's make a list. Prioritize what absolutely must get done in the next few hours. Then we'll call vendors and see if we can find backups." Emily nodded, finally relaxing, a little. Jake gave me a grateful look. For the next few hours, I threw myself into organizing. I called friends who worked in event planning, contacted local florists, and negotiated with caterers willing to rush the order. I coordinated with the venue staff to rearrange the schedule and made sure the guests would be seated properly. All the while, Emily watched quietly. At first, her eyes held a guarded suspicion, but as things began to come together, I noticed the tension ease in her shoulders. At one point, she pulled me aside. "I don't know how you're doing this," she said, voice low. "I should have asked for help sooner." I smiled softly. "You didn't want to. I get that." She looked down, voice breaking slightly. "It wasn't just about the wedding. It's everything. You've been distant. We've said things we regret. I thought maybe excluding you would protect me." "Protect you?" I echoed gently. "Or protect the image you wanted to show everyone?" She looked away. "Maybe both." The silence stretched between us, heavy but honest. Later, as I directed the setup crew to hang the last decorations, I realized something important. This wasn't just about fixing a wedding mess. It was about repairing years of hurt, misunderstandings, and distance. I wasn't sure if we'd get there, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like maybe we could try. As evening fell, the hall slowly transformed. The tables gleamed under soft lighting, flowers filled the room with fresh scents, and a quiet buzz of excitement began to build. Emily approached me again, this time with a genuine smile. "Thanks for coming," she said simply. I nodded. "I'm here. For you." And despite the rocky road ahead, that was all either of us needed to hear. The guests started arriving just as the last of the decorations were placed. Emily was still visibly stressed but seemed more composed. I stayed nearby, ready to step in if anything else went wrong. The ceremony began smoothly, the officiant's voice clear, the music soft, and Emily walking down the aisle looking radiant, if a little nervous. Watching her, I felt a complicated mix of emotions. Part of me wanted to turn away and pretend none of this ever happened, but the other part, the part that had stayed invested through all the silent years, wanted to be there, fully present. After the vows, we moved to the reception. I was mingling quietly when I noticed Jake whispering anxiously to one of the caterers. Their eyes darted toward the kitchen repeatedly. Suddenly, the caterer approached me, whispering, "We have a problem. The main dish order got delayed. The kitchen says it'll be another hour." I felt a surge of frustration but kept my cool. "Okay, what can we do in the meantime?" "We have appetizers and salads ready. We can start serving those." I nodded, then found Emily to explain the situation. She was disappointed but understood. I reassured her we'd do everything to keep the guests happy. Just as the first guests were enjoying appetizers, the music stopped abruptly. The DJ was nowhere to be seen, and no one answered his phone. Emily looked panicked again, and I knew this was the moment I had to step up once more. I grabbed my phone and called a friend who was a local musician and event host. To my relief, he was free and willing to help last minute. Within 20 minutes, live music filled the room, lifting the mood instantly. People started dancing, laughing, and the tension began to dissolve. Emily came over, eyes moist but smiling. "You really saved the day," I shrugged. "Just doing what I can." As the night went on, guests complimented the atmosphere. Some even asked how we pulled off such a smooth rescue. But the biggest surprise came near the end, when Emily's husband, Jake, pulled me aside. "Look, I owe you an apology," he said quietly. "I was skeptical when Emily called you. I thought you'd just stir up drama. But you really helped, more than I expected." I nodded, appreciating his honesty. "Thanks, Jake." For the first time in years, I felt something shift between us. The rivalry, the misunderstandings, even the resentment. They felt a little less heavy. Maybe this disaster, this mess, was the unexpected start of something better. The rest of the night passed without incident. The guests were happy, the food finally arrived, and the live music kept the energy lively. I noticed Emily relaxing for the first time since the wedding preparations had started, her laughter genuine and bright. After the last dance, Emily pulled me aside once more. "I owe you more than thanks," she said softly. I was so focused on being perfect, on trying to control everything, that I forgot what really matters: family, trust, and forgiveness. I smiled, feeling a warmth I hadn't felt in years. "I'm just glad I could help." She looked me in the eyes, vulnerable. "I've missed you, and I'm sorry for pushing you away." I took a deep breath. "I missed you too, and I'm sorry for not trying harder to be there." For a moment, the past didn't feel so heavy. Maybe we couldn't erase years of distance overnight, but this night had cracked the ice. The next days were filled with slow, honest conversations. Emily and I talked about everything: the fights, the silence, the feelings we both buried. It wasn't easy, but it was real. Jake, too, seemed to have a newfound respect for me. He included me in family gatherings and even asked for advice on some work stuff. It was strange, but welcome. Months later, our relationship was still fragile, but growing stronger. The wedding disaster that could have torn us apart became the moment that finally brought us together. Sometimes, life's messiest moments lead to the most unexpected healing. And for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful about the future. Not just for the family I was born into, but for the one we were learning to rebuild.